What kind of town punishes a woman for saving children? That was the question running through Clara Reeves's mind as she stood alone in the middle of Willow Ridge, Wyoming Territory, 1879, her arms wrapped around a trembling little boy who had nowhere else to go. The air smelled of dust and horse sweat, the late evening sun turning the sky a deep orange, but none of that mattered. What mattered were the 4 orphans tucked behind her skirts, their small faces streaked with tears and dirt, their world already shattered long before today. Clara was only 25, barely more than a girl in the eyes of the frontier, yet the weight on her shoulders felt heavy as stone. For the past month, she had taken in every child left behind by the fever outbreak that tore through the mining settlement. 4 little souls, 4 pairs of scared eyes, 4 lives depending on her. And now she was being punished for it. Miss Reeves, Mayor Kudrow barked from the steps of the town hall, his fleshy face red with authority he liked to show off. The council has reached its decision. Those children will be sent east on tomorrow's orphan train. You will release them immediately. Clara tightened her hold on the youngest boy, a 5-year-old named Samuel, his tears dampening her blouse. Their parents died last week, she said sharply, though her voice trembled with exhaustion. They need comfort. Familiar faces. You cannot ship them off like cargo. They need proper institutions, the mayor snapped. Not a single woman with no means to support them. You're a seamstress, not a mother. Clara lifted her chin. I'm what they have. That simple truth seemed to anger him more. If you refuse, he warned, jabbing a thick finger at her, the council will remove you from your lodging, revoke your shop lease, and bar you from doing business in Willow Ridge. Behind her, the children whimpered. Clara swallowed hard, her heart twisting at the fear in their eyes. She wanted to shout that this was cruelty disguised as order. She wanted to scream that sending children away would break them beyond repair. But she also knew the council held too much power, and she had no one to appeal to. No husband, no family in the territory, no friend with enough influence to challenge the law-hungry men who ran the town. She only had her determination. And the children. That night, once she'd brought them back to her tiny cabin behind the sewing shop, Clara tried to hide her worry. The flickering lantern cast a warm glow over the one-room home. 3 small cots sat close together, blankets neatly arranged, each child's little keepsakes tucked beside their pillows. Are they really going to take us? 9-year-old Rose whispered as she brushed her tangled blonde hair with shaking fingers. Clara knelt beside her. I won't let them, she said gently, not without a fight. But they're the council, Tom said, the oldest at 11. No one goes against them. Clara forced a smile she didn't feel. Then maybe it's time someone did. The children clung to that hope, though Clara knew she had less than 24 hours to find a miracle. Sleep was impossible. She spent the night drafting letters, thinking through plans, praying for strength. At dawn, she braided Rose's hair, cleaned the boys' shirts the best she could, and prepared them for one last effort to find help. By mid-morning, they were walking down Willow Ridge's dusty Main Street, moving from door to door. Clara explained their situation to the blacksmith, the baker, the doctor, even the saloon keeper. Every answer was the same. Fearful, sympathetic, but firm. I can't afford to anger the council. I'm sorry, Miss Reeves. I truly am. I wish things were different. By noon, her throat hurt from pleading, her legs ached, and her hope had thinned to a fragile thread. Their final stop was the general store. Mr. Harper, the owner, adjusted his spectacles nervously when she entered. Miss Reeves, I heard the council's ruling. It's a hard thing. I need someone to speak for the children, Clara said quietly. Anyone. The man sighed, his gaze softening as he looked at the children. I'm sorry. My wife and I are too old to take in little ones. And crossing the council, he trailed off. Before Clara could respond, the bell above the door jingled. A tall man stepped inside, carrying a sack of grain over his shoulder like it weighed nothing. Broad-shouldered, sun-tanned, with dark hair falling beneath a weathered hat. His presence filled the room in a way that made everyone else seem smaller. "Morning, Harper," he said, his deep voice sending a strange flutter through Clara's stomach. Harper brightened. "Mr. Weston, your supplies are ready." The man nodded politely, then looked at Clara, really looked. His eyes were a steely blue, sharp, observant, not missing a thing. "Ma'am," he greeted with a respectful tip of his hat. Clara managed a stiff nod. "Good morning." "These yours?" he asked gently, glancing at the children. "They're orphans from the fever," Harper explained. "Miss Reeves has been caring for them." The stranger crouched down to the children's level without hesitation. "What's your name, partner?" he asked Tom. "Tom Cooper, sir." Quote, "Good handshake," the man said, giving the boy's small hand a firm, friendly shake. He greeted each child the same way, calm, steady, kind. Then he stood and turned to Clara again. "Name's Luke Weston. I bought the Silver Rock Ranch 10 miles south." Clara blinked. She had heard of the place. A large ranch, remote, owned by a man who kept to himself. Luke looked at her with quiet curiosity. "You look like someone carrying far too much weight on her own." Before she could stop herself, the truth slipped out. "The council wants to send them away tomorrow." Luke's jaw tightened. "And you're fighting it?" Quote, "I'm trying." He studied her for a long moment, something shifting in his eyes. Respect, admiration, and something else she didn't dare name. "Miss Reeves," he said softly, "maybe you and I should talk." His voice was steady, his gaze unwavering. And for the first time in days, Clara felt the smallest spark of hope. Luke Weston didn't speak again until all 4 children had been fed a small lunch Harper insisted on offering, and Clara had steadied her breathing enough to follow the rancher outside. The sun sat high over Willow Ridge, casting sharp shadows across the dusty road. People passed by with curious stares, their eyes drifting from Clara to the tall cowboy at her side. Luke rested one hand lightly on his belt, calm and solid as a mountain. "Let's walk," he said quietly. Clara nodded, guiding the children along with her. They moved toward the small park near the creek where the willow trees gave a little shade. Once they settled on a bench, Luke crouched in front of Clara again, not the children this time, but her. "Tell me everything," he said. His voice wasn't demanding. It was steady, warm, the kind of voice that made someone feel safe enough to speak truthfully. Clara explained everything: the fever outbreak, the parents who died, the night the first child had knocked on her door, sobbing, how the others had followed, how she had fed them, bathed them, taught them, held them through nightmares, how the council had threatened her work and her home. "I'm all they have," she finished softly, "and I won't let them be torn from the only place that still feels familiar." Luke listened without interrupting, his hands resting loosely on his knees. When she finished, he looked at the children playing quietly nearby. Rose helping Samuel tie his boot, Tom and 8-year-old Eli skipping stones in the creek. "These kids deserve to stay right here," Luke said, "and you're not wrong for fighting for them." Clara swallowed hard. "The mayor will never listen to me. He only believes in laws written by men who never cared about children." "Then we'll make him listen," Luke said simply. Clara blinked. "We?" Quote. Luke rose slowly, the full height of him blocking the sun for a moment. "I'm going with you to the council." Clara shook her head. "They don't know you. And you don't know us. I don't want to drag you into trouble." Luke's expression softened. "Miss Reeves, helping folks in trouble is part of living out here. Besides," his eyes moved over the children again, "they're worth fighting for." Something warm spread through Clara's chest, hope she had barely allowed herself to feel. Luke tipped his hat. "Come on, let's go face them." The town hall was crowded when they entered, townsfolk lingering after the council meeting, all whispering about the orphans and the stubborn seamstress causing trouble. Clara held the children close, her heart pounding in her ears. Luke walked beside her, shoulders broad, jaw tight, the steady presence that kept her from shaking. Mayor Kudrow spotted her and scowled. "Miss Reeves, we gave you until sundown to comply. Why are you here?" "Because she's not alone anymore," Luke said, stepping forward. A murmur rippled through the room. "And who might you be?" Councilman Briggs asked. "Luke Weston, owner of the Silver Rock Ranch." The councilman shifted nervously. A ranch as large as Silver Rock meant money, influence, and trouble if crossed. Luke continued, his voice calm but firm. These children stay. The council has no right to take them away without a guardian's consent. They have no guardian, Kudrow snapped. I'm offering guardianship, Luke said. Clara's heart froze. Luke. He didn't look away from the council. They stay with Miss Reeves during the school week. I take responsibility for them on the ranch weekends and during breaks. Between the two of us, they'll have more family than half the children in this territory. Councilman Briggs snorted. A single woman and a single man sharing custody? It's improper. Luke's voice deepened. Not improper if we make it proper. Clara's breath caught. The room went silent. Kudrow narrowed his eyes. And what exactly do you mean by that? Luke finally turned to Clara, his eyes holding hers. Miss Reeves, I know we only met today, but I see your heart. You're strong, you're brave, and these children love you. Clara's throat tightened. Luke held her gaze, steady as the mountains he came from. If you're willing, we can raise them together. Gasps echoed around the room. Clara stared at him, stunned. Luke, you don't even know me. I know enough. He glanced at the children, then back into her eyes. And I know you didn't deserve to stand alone in this fight. The children pressed closer to Clara, watching the moment with wide, hopeful eyes. Tom whispered, Miss Clara, does this mean we get to stay? Quote. Emotions swelled in her chest, threatening to spill over. Luke Weston, this stranger, was offering the one thing she had prayed for all night, a chance to keep the children safe, a partner in a battle she had been losing alone. Clara faced the council. Yes, she said quietly but firmly. I accept Mr. Weston's offer. Relief spread across the children's faces in a wave of pure joy. Kudrow sputtered. You can't just... Guardianship papers will be filed by week's end, Luke cut in, and the town won't spend a dime. The council exchanged uneasy glances. The law was on Luke's side now, and so was the weight of his ranch. Finally, Briggs spoke. Very well, the children stay. Clara's knees went weak. She almost sank to the floor, but Luke's hand steadied her gently, the touch warm and sure. The children whooped with relief, clinging to Clara and Luke both. When they stepped outside, Clara turned to him, overwhelmed. Why did you do that? Why go so far for us? Luke met her gaze with quiet sincerity. Because no good woman should ever be punished for protecting children. And because, his voice softened, no one should have to carry that kind of burden alone. Clara felt something shift in her heart, something she didn't know how to name yet. Luke smiled faintly. So what do you say, Clara Reeves? Should we raise them together? Before she could answer, little Samuel tugged on Luke's pant leg. Mr. Weston, do you have horses? Luke chuckled. Plenty, and one just your size. Clara watched Samuel's face light up. Maybe, just maybe, this impossible arrangement could work. Maybe Luke Weston had walked into their lives at exactly the right moment. The following days moved faster than Clara expected, each one folding into the next like pages in a story she never imagined living. The children stayed close to her side, refusing to wander far, still afraid someone might change their mind and drag them onto the orphan train after all. But every time Luke Weston appeared, at the sewing shop, at her cabin, or walking down the main street carrying supplies, something in the children steadied, as if his mere presence meant safety. And maybe it did. On the fourth morning, Luke arrived at her cabin with his wagon ready to take all of them to the Silver Rock Ranch for the first time. The children erupted with excitement. Tom grabbed his hat. Rose clutched her little patchwork bag. Eli and Samuel bounced on their toes like they'd been waiting their whole lives for this moment. Clara, though, felt nerves twist inside her. She tied her bonnet with shaky fingers, unsure if this was truly happening. Luke seemed to sense her hesitation. He stepped closer, his voice low and warm. We'll take this one step at a time. I'm not here to make things harder for you. Clara nodded, her heart beating too fast. I know, I'm just adjusting. Luke offered a small smile. We both are. The ride to the ranch took nearly an hour. the wagon rattling along the dirt trail bordered by sunflowers and waving prairie grass. The children peppered Luke with questions the whole way. Do you have cows? How many horses? Is it true ranch hands sleep in bunks? Do we get our own room? Luke answered every question patiently, his deep voice carrying through the warm morning air. Clara watched the way he looked at each child when they spoke, the way he listened fully. It was clear he hadn't done this out of charity. Something inside him had shifted too. When the ranch finally came into view, the children gasped in unison. Silver Rock stretched across a wide green valley, bordered by mountains rising soft and blue in the distance. A strong timber house sat at the center, its porch long and welcoming. Barns, corrals, and a windmill dotted the land. Horses grazed in the fenced pastures, their manes shining under the sun. "It's beautiful," Rose whispered. Luke guided the horses toward the front porch. "Welcome home," he said simply. "Home." Clara closed her eyes for a moment, letting the words settle into her heart. It had been so long since she'd had a place where she felt safe, let alone wanted. Ranch hands came out to greet them, tipping their hats politely. Luke introduced Clara and the children one by one. "Hank here is my foreman," Luke said as a tall, older man stepped forward with a gentle smile. "He keeps the ranch running straight when I'm off dealing with too many things at once." "Pleasure, ma'am. Kids," Hank said kindly. "We'll make sure you're well looked after." Inside the house, Clara found a warm and lived-in home with polished wood floors, a stone fireplace, and wide windows that let in miles of sunlight. Luke had made sure everything felt comfortable before their arrival. Extra blankets, fresh linens, cleaned rooms, and a large table set with enough chairs for all of them. "You did all this for us?" Clara asked softly. Luke shrugged lightly, though the faint pink on his ears gave him away. Didn't want the place looking like a bachelor's den. As the children explored the house, Clara watched Luke show Eli how to open the windows and helped Rose arrange her few belongings neatly by a bed. He was gentle, thoughtful, so unlike the cold, practical man the council had made him out to be. At lunchtime, they all sat around the table while Luke blessed the meal. The children ate like they hadn't tasted food in days, and Luke kept slipping extra cornbread onto Samuel's plate when he thought Clara wasn't looking. After the meal, Luke carried Samuel for a tour of the barn while the other children ran ahead with excitement. Clara followed quietly beside him, watching how easily this man fit into a role he had never planned for. When they reached the back pasture, the late afternoon sun painted the fields gold. The children raced to the fence, staring wide-eyed at the horses. Luke leaned close to Clara. "This is the part one wanted them to see." She smiled softly. "They're happier than I've seen them in weeks." "Good," Luke said. "They deserve it." Clara turned toward him. His hat shaded his eyes, but she could still see the warmth in them. "And what about you?" she asked. "You've taken on a lot." "I don't see it that way," Luke said. "I see 6 children who needed a home, and a woman who fought harder for them than anyone else in this town." Clara's cheeks warmed. "I just did what was right." He studied her quietly. Most people don't. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The breeze stirred her bonnet ribbons. A bird chirped somewhere in the fields. Then Luke said the words she hadn't been expecting. "Not today. Not so soon. Not from a man who barely knew her a week ago." "What I said in the council hall," his voice softened, "I meant all of it." Clara's heart thudded. "About raising the children together? And about making it proper," he added gently. "Clara, I'd like to build something real with you, not for the council. Not because the law says so, but because I want a family, and I want it with you." Her breath caught. "Luke." He took off his hat, the gesture almost reverent. "I know this is fast, but sometimes the right things don't wait for the perfect moment. They come when they're needed most." Clara felt tears sting her eyes, tears of relief, gratitude, something deeper she wasn't ready to name. "I don't know what the future holds," she whispered, "but I want a family too." Luke stepped closer, his voice low and steady. "Then let's raise these children together. For real." Clara exhaled shakily. "Yes," she said, her voice barely above a breath. "Yes, I want that." A slow smile spread across Luke's face. "Then I reckon we start building our life right here." At that exact moment, Samuel ran back toward them, waving excitedly. "Miss Clara! Mr. Luke! Come see the baby horse!" Clara laughed through her tears. Luke touched her arm gently, just enough to make her heart flutter, and together they walked toward the future waiting in the pasture. The children had a home. She had a partner. And for the first time in a very long time, Clara Reeves felt chosen.